Sorry, I'm just looking through my messages as they come in. Good morning, everyone. Hi. We'll probably get a few more folks on the line, but since we're a smaller group today, and as we grow, we can, I know Tom was trying to get back on. I guess he's going to restart. We wanted to dedicate today, as Tracey shared, we're looking for different themes every day now for our daily Zoom chats and ways to bring key stakeholders of specific groups within our larger community together to be an open resource, share ideas, give some feedback. And then also with every daily Zoom chat to provide all of us with as much updates and information that we know, since so much is so fluid and each day things are shifting and changing. So for today, I wanted to share an update that I just saw. How many of you are residents of the District of Columbia? For those I can't see your faces, I don't know, feel free to respond in the chat or add your audio.
Holly raised her hand in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, so actually it might be better just to say yes if you are a DC resident in the chat. I've learned, I don't know how many of you have applied. For those that are DC residents, you absolutely should apply to the one emergency grant that we do know about that's coming through the, it's for small businesses and arts nonprofits or nonprofit organizations. It's coming out of Mayor Bowser's DC Small Business Recovery Micro Grants. If you're a DC resident and a teaching artist, you are eligible. If 50% of your receipts are from businesses in the district, you also may be eligible. Now, for those of you that are on that reside in either Maryland or Virginia, I'm not sure if you are eligible for this funding unless you have your business established in DC. If you set up an LLC in DC, but they extended the deadline. It was Monday, but they've extended the deadline to today, so April 1st, and that's not an April Fool's joke, that's real. So if any of you have not had, just curious, anyone want to respond in chat if they've applied for this? This is the first emergency grant that we've seen so far coming out of the district. I just wanted to make sure those that were eligible were fully aware of it and were applying, because everyone should apply that is eligible. Okay, excellent. Okay, Devin applied. So that's the latest news that I know on emergency recovery grants. We also know that the Greater Washington Community Foundation has put out what now might be revolving weekly requests for proposals, mostly for DC-based or greater DMV-based nonprofits of all types, with focus for general ops support or education and youth support. Just so you know, the DC Collaborative is applying for that today. It's mostly to be able to continue to provide our COVID-19 response. So to keep our virtual doors open so we can serve you all during this time. So we can continue these Zoom chat conversations. We can continue to pivot to help find more pathways to support teaching artists and practitioners in our community. And then also to support that distance learning portal that we've created, that database that we've created. So that's another grant we know about. And we're waiting to see on the federal relief side more about National Endowment for the Arts emergency grants. Nothing has been officially posted yet. I'll be checking in again later today. So that's what I know from on the funding landscape. Does anyone else have any information about emergency resources particular to teaching artists and practitioners that they're aware of that they'd like to share with the group? Yeah, so far, I think what's happening is because this pandemic impacts every single one of us, every single institution, business, company, everyone. A lot of our private sector supporters, the foundations, it's taking them a little longer than, it feels longer, but it's only been really since March 16th, since many of us have been officially in this mode. But it takes them a while to not only calibrate and be operational remotely themselves, but then to assess the landscape, talk with their board members or whoever their decision makers are in their organizations to figure out what they can do and provide. Also, as you know, most of these foundations, their funding is invested in stock, so I'm sure that's going to impact their budgets and bottom lines of what they can offer as well. So while it feels like it's taking a long time for the philanthropic community to come out and be supportive, it really hasn't been that much time in the scheme of things. And also, if they are doing anything, they also might be supporting more direct services, first responders, some of that other support. And we know the arts are very important. Our livelihoods are important, especially as teaching artists and practitioners. So I think that if you can and are eligible to apply, it doesn't take that long. I don't think it's that hard of an application. This is the mayor's info. Let me see, once I'm done chatting, I'll pull it up and put it on the chat board for folks to see, but it is due today. Also, please share it with your friends and colleagues that are DC based that aren't on today, because the deadline has been extended, and it's really advantageous for you if you can apply to apply. So that's what I know on the funding landscape so far, or emergency resource landscape. But also some other news to share with you all that I'm sure you may have seen. We're starting to see some of what folks would call the bellwether institutions making some very big announcements, one being the Kennedy Center. And that was in the news today. That was very, it's quite devastating. It's very sad, but it's also a necessity for the institution in order to be able to be operational to some extent when it can open its doors, but it is furloughing 60% of its administrative team effective April 6th. There's an article in the Post, there's an article in Washingtonian that details, the Washingtonian piece actually has the direct press release that came from the Kennedy Center posted, so you can see this was clearly a difficult decision, but I know that this will impact some of you that do work with the Kennedy Center. We know that our good friend and advocate and board member, Jeanette McCune, is one of those that is impacted by this furlough starting April 6th. And Tracey and I will hopefully be able to chat with her today. It's going to be really hard because we need the minds of all of our top leaders in the arts and humanities education space right now to help us figure out how to pivot, right? And to do this work. And if folks like Jeanette are furloughed, they may not be able to do that. So it's discouraging news, but not completely shocking. Just so you know, from the DC Collaborative perspective, we're a much smaller team than certainly the Kennedy Center or the Kennedy Center's education department for that matter. But given the work that we do and the need to help ensure cohesiveness in our community, and thankfully because we do have, albeit a very modest reserve this year, and Terry's on our board, so she knows as our board secretary, the collaborative is going to maintain its full staff through at least through the end of our fiscal year, which is June 30th. So we are hopeful. We are still asking for money because we need it. We need emergency dollars to be able to do our work, but we know that you need us just as much as we need you. And I don't want to let go of any of our staff. Furloughing or otherwise. We're taking a humanist approach. The board hasn't formally met to officially address this, but we did talk about it at our last board meeting on March 12th, and I still maintain as executive director of the org that that is the direction we must take for now. What happens in our new fiscal year, we don't know, but we are starting to look at those numbers. Our executive committee will meet next week. We are going to hold a special board meeting on April 30th. We'll probably have another board meeting in May, and then we do have a board meeting already scheduled for June. So the DC Collaborative plans to remain fully operational in pivot support mode, certainly now through June 30th and beyond. But know that that's where we stand financially. I think it's important for the community to know that I've shared this with our team. But I know organizations like the Kennedy Center are making those types of large announcements. So I just want to share that with you guys. I appreciate the chat that's going on here. Deb, thank you so much for sharing how long it took you to fill out that micro grant. You do need to have your financials in order. That's true. I know that can be more challenging for some, but I think the good news is also this would have been tax season time, right? So hopefully you were already in that place, or make the point to make sure you get there, but it is due today. Don't pass up on the opportunity to at least be eligible to receive some emergency support, which is so important right now. Okay, so everyone continuing to introduce themselves. Let's talk about why we came together today to find ways for us to collaborate, share what information we know, maybe express some of our challenges, vent a little bit. That's what we're here for. It's a little bit of therapy for ourselves too. So I want these conversations to be open to you. It should really be peer-led and run. And in this case, the teaching artists and practitioners. Sylvia, if you'd like to start. I see your hand.
I'm ready. Hi, everybody. It's just so wonderful. At 11 o'clock, I look forward. I want to drop and just come to you. And I can never come on time because I'm always closing another meeting. It's just great to have something we didn't do all throughout the year, to see those same faces. And I think at the very end, we'll come out strong. I'm very sad to hear about Jeanette. I didn't hear about that.
It was just announced
anyway,
this morning. Yeah.
I am heartbroken because there is so much wisdom, experience, and representation there.
Yeah.
That she carries, that whoever made that decision, I know that they need to cut some, but this would not have been a person to do.
I think that pretty much the majority of from at least the press release, we haven't talked to Jeanette yet. Tracey and I are going to talk to her later this afternoon, but from that press release, it looks like the majority of the community and education department has been furloughed, that the skeletal staff is defined as key administrative infrastructure, the communications department, and development.
Mm-hmm.
So it is huge. It's 60% of their team.
Yeah. So on the teaching artist, I mean, I think that I know some of you I do not know. My name is Sylvia. I wear many hats. Mm-hmm. I'm the Dean and Director of Early Childhood Arts and Professional Development, and that is Early Childhood Teaching Artists, Professional Development, and Arts Integration at Satar Center. I'm also the Music and Performing Teaching Artist for Oyster Adams, which is a DCPS school. So I'm there part-time. At Satar, I'm hired part-time, but I feel like I'm there full-time. I'm also a teaching artist with prep for a long time, 7 years, and with Inner City, Inner Child, whom you're familiar with. And of course, Ingrid Zimmer is constantly here with us, and along with Karen Brown, who I see is also here in the meeting. I had made some big decisions in my life on last November. It was a bad time to do this, but I resigned from my Satar position. So in 2 months, I'm going to be unemployed. So I am self-furloughing maybe, or self-firing, if you will. And I am trying to develop, of course, something of my own. My skills left for that are my teaching artist skills. I had started my own business, which did not get off the ground because whatever contract I would have had, it would have been starting right around this time. And that was unfortunate for me. So I'm still trying there. However, I didn't drop my other roles. And I look at my teaching artist at Satar, and I take them all as as my own children. They are, most of them, the age of my own children. So I've been working very hard to coach them and prepare them to teach in this new norm. Satar originally had said that they were not going to continue paying, although, I mean, they couldn't, right? Like everything else, they needed to drop on something. However, our community is looking for engaging our students. 80% of our students are of middle or low income, and they are already with a disparate in terms of differences in accents and things of that sort. And many of their parents are working because they need to put food on the table, and even self-isolation, I think it's being hard for them. So I've been working with my teaching artists, and what we do, every day, one of them presents. I had asked everybody to do a lesson in our little team. We are our own coach and feedback. So I moderate that. But we are all preparing to teach in this new platform, high quality, and putting many minds together to think. Then we can spot what works, what doesn't work, what should be enhanced, what should not. And everybody that is in that call learns from all of the critiques for that one particular teaching artist. And you can see the next person that presents has already an enhanced presentation based just on those feedback for the other teaching artist. So it's been a wonderful collaborative process. Of course, this is all volunteering, right? However, Satar is as of next week, so early childhood started, yep. We piloted a Bollywood class this Monday. We had great response. So these are all teachers that had already been teaching at Satar. So what we decided to do is that because the teaching artists are the best prepared, because we've been going through this process for 2 weeks now, then we are going to start, I think, 6 different classes at Satar next week that will be via Zoom platform at the moment. Well, anyway, the difference is, so our teaching artists will be paid. Luckily, Satar has some money that they had been assured that they will get, which is the out-of-school office, and that it's for 21st century grant for our after-school students. So they do have some funding that can support some of these classes. However, we have at least 5 teaching artists, some of those classes are repeated, that are going to continue teaching, and they are going to have a teeny tiny bit of income, but more than anything, it's very depressing just to be working on something and not getting anywhere. I think this is an emotional and a mental lift that we'll be doing. Now, what Satar is going to be doing in Satar's case, instead of having the teachers teach just the classes that the registration of, or just the class that they were teaching, we are opening all the classes to the entire community. We have age ranges, but everybody is welcome to participate. So we'll see how that goes. So it's not as personal. Our teaching artists cannot call our students by name and have somewhat that personal interaction. But parents are just looking to engage their children in some ways, and nothing like the art forms for anybody really, but especially for the young children. So sorry so much floor time, but I wanted just to share that experience, and next week I'll give you feedback of what happened.
I was muted, sorry. Thanks for sharing that, Sylvia. I think it's really heartwarming to hear what Satar has been able to pivot to so quickly. And just as we're hearing from so many, the goodwill that is moving forward, because these are programs that can be accessible to anyone and everyone, providing they have internet access. You know, the equity issue is a big concern for us still. But for those that can have it, or families that may have even limited resources, this is something, even if it's on the Zoom platform, it could be seen on a handheld device, a phone as well. And hopefully many families are already knowledgeable of the Zoom platform, because so many of us are using it in our personal space too. And also we've learned here at the Collaborative, albeit the hard way, about how to protect, okay, yes, I know, we're gonna have flashbacks, sorry, about how to protect ZoomChat, and also ZoomChat is well aware of that too. So especially now that you're gonna be working with little babies and families, just make sure you, while you open it to public, you create that member holding room feature that Tracey does now, as you saw when we came onto this ZoomChat today. Yeah, if Satar needs that info, we're happy to help out, since, you know, again, we learned it the hard way.
Yeah, Trey forwarded me a really helpful blog, and I'll put that in the chat right now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Oof, wow. So many things out of our control these days, but that we can control nowadays, so that's important. I did post the DC Micro Recovery Grant link in the chat. And also, Devin, I'm sorry, I speed read through the chat, but if you want to just say hi, introduce yourself, let's talk a little bit about that micro grant and explain how it worked for you in applying.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you. And can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So my wife and I had looked at the information, and they've really streamlined a lot from applying for grants in the past. And the hardest part is making sure you get your financials in order. We had to put together pretty much your, what is it called, the income statement or profit loss statement from 2019 for the first quarter of this year. But once we got that information together, it walked us through. The questions were pretty simplistic. And it took maybe, like I say, less than an hour. I mean, you know, just to make sure you read through everything correctly. But I thought it was pretty simplistic, and we had it really wasn't too difficult to put that together for us. And so I really would encourage, if you are in DC, or if you're not, like you say, if you might still be eligible. So look up all the eligibility rules. They make it very simple. There's a contact number that you can call to ask some questions, or maybe email chat with someone. So I would encourage you to do that as well. And then what I would also add to this, in terms of making sure we have access, the students or children who don't have access to the internet, I've been doing radio for a while, trying to get children's music radio on regular AM, FM stations. And so I worked for 18 months as hosting my own show on WOL 1450 AM. I just stopped in February because I'm now going to be starting children's music programming on WPFW 89.3 FM. Right now, it's scheduled to start April 15th from 7 to 8 p.m. It's not just music. It's music, it's discussions, it's talk, it's anything that we want to create. But the most important thing is to let people know that we are here. And so I plan on doing interviews with, with different organizations, the DC Arts Collaborative, as well as the Satar. I actually interviewed Lorraine Robinson she was on my last episode when I was on WOL. So anyway, if anyone is interested in that, you can just go to We Nation Radio, wenationradio.com. I spell it with two E's, WEE Nation Radio, and we can go from there. And I saw someone had a question, I think. Okay. Yeah, I never made it to Satar. Yeah, I was supposed to be making it over to Satar, working with Wolf Trap, but we're gonna make it work. We want to make it work sometime. So I don't want to dominate, but thank you for allowing me to share.
Oh, that's wonderful news. They are so lucky to have you. And also PFW, I have such a soft spot for them. I love that station.
Absolutely.
If they were on the air, I would be devastated.
I know.
Listen to them every day.
Yes.
It's a wonderful community radio station that we all, if we can support now, they probably need support just as much as we all do.
Absolutely.
So as we're keeping in mind of if we are in a position to share resources, that would definitely be one as well.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and yes, please, anytime you want any of us from the DC Collaborative on, we could even provide like little 5-minute updates in all your programs. We're happy to do that. We could alternate between myself, Trey, Tracey. We all have, you know, faces for radio, right? So,
Right.
good. But I think that radio is such an important conduit now more than ever, because, and especially low power FM stations. These are our community stations. And the more we can direct our educational offerings that way, even better. Because we do see that there are several TV networks now, local networks that are working with DCPS. If you look at their Twitter feed and their Facebook feeds, their social media, they're making announcements of different broadcast connections that they have. They haven't announced radio yet. And I think that radio is so important and so much more accessible even than TV, because some of those channels, it's not just about rabbit ears, you have to have cable too. So, so thank you for what you're doing, Devin. That is awesome. Please put the information about your program, the time that you're airing, so we all know. And yes, please stay in touch with us. The Collaborative would love to have just a little corner of your space to share out what we know. On each broadcast, we'd be happy to do that and help out. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Danelle, do you have anything you'd like to share? Tom, anyone else? Terry?
Yeah, Tom, you want to go first or no?
Oh, go for it, Nelly. You're on.
Yeah, just a quick update. So I'm with Life Pieces to Masterpieces. We're a nonprofit art organization in Ward 7. It's really art, so it's art-based, but we also do infrastructure and after-school programming. We're located in Drew Elementary, which is temporarily shut down due to the pandemic. So our whole, I guess, last week and this week still, our main thing has just been like, I guess getting like props to our kids. So main thing like laptops and like school supplies, things like that. It's been difficult because, like I said, we're after school like hands-on program. So every day each teacher has to like FaceTime and Zoom actually with at least like 18 to 20 kids every day. Daily updates, weekly reports, group chats with the kids together. And then also our staff meetings it's right after this actually. So our whole thing is it's really not difficult, but we're getting used to it now. But everything, we're a hands-on program, so it's just funny to be technology based right now. But that was our whole thing this week, just getting supplies for families and the students. So water, toilet tissue, like household needs for like our kids and our families who can't provide. Some of the kids' parents are actually like working still doing this. Some kids are actually home like by themselves, just like their brother and sister or older sibling. So this has been our whole thing, but not difficult time, but we're getting through it.
Yeah, I think, you know, when we hear about what is happening within the cultural sector, the impacts to furloughs and laying off institutions as big as Kennedy Center, and we'll start to hear more stories. What I really think is so important is the smaller community-based orgs. Just those are the true direct lifelines to our kids. And the work that you guys do in the best of times is so vital, and now more than ever. And, you know, how are you all able to take care of yourselves and make sure you have the right resources so that you don't stop doing what you need to do? I'm sure that's very difficult. So,
crazy right now.
So I'm sure Life Pieces to Masterpieces also would be eligible for that grant. So in addition to applying as an individual teaching artist, that you all apply.
Okay.
If you haven't done so, it's worth the time. And from the nonprofit side, I can tell you, similar to what Devin was sharing, they do ask you to go back on your financials, so you do have to have that info. But the good news is, as a nonprofit, you have to have it because you have to file 990s every year. So they do ask for nonprofits to go back 2 fiscal years to see the total income and expenses that you have during a 3-month period, being this impact period, just so they can get a sense of what kind of money you would normally be generating or spending during this time of year. And I think that's probably the best way that they can figure out and assess how to support all of us right now. So it does take a little bit of time, but it really was, in the scheme of things, as someone who does most of the grant writing, it wasn't too hard. Yeah, so please take advantage of the deadline and apply.
All right, thanks.
Real quick, Danelle, can you send me your email in the chat? I messaged you, but I don't know if you saw it. And I sent everyone a ZoomChat security resource, and I didn't have your email. So,
All right, I'll send that.
Thank you.
Sylvia, I like what you're saying in the chat. It's so true. I think that, especially as creatives, this is our time where we really excel. We take crises, right, Danelle? Yeah.
Yeah. Someone asked how do we get how do we get supplies to the kids? So actually, so like we're putting our own risk at if kids don't get it, they don't get it. Some people, like, their parents work, so right. So we have like hands-on staff, like we have different teams. We have people who can do like tasks and like oriented things like that, like to deliver. Because they wouldn't get it. So it's been us. There's a certain team that do it. They just drive out and get it to it.
How many kids are we talking about that you're working with?
I'm sorry?
How many kids are you working with?
So roughly 50 right now.
Yeah.
Like in need is like 50. Give or take. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it varies, so it depends on certain things. So like some people needed laptops, some people needed like water, some people it varied. So some things was educational, some things were like household, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, so again, as far as distribution, there was like a certain team to actually like go out and drive. So, and to go buy the stuff. So you're putting your own stuff at risk as opposed to, yeah.
I see more programming and development for you, Devin. We've got another guest right here to talk about Life Pieces to Masterpieces, which, how many years have you guys been around? You've been around for a while.
It's about to be 25 this year.
Yeah. Such an important program. And when we had our Teaching Artists Institute last spring, oh my gosh, was it? Wow, okay. At the building.
August.
August, okay, sorry. Okay, time is like so fucked up right now, sorry. I can't recall any, like I'm lucky I know it's Wednesday, right? So, but when we had that, it was just hearing from your founder, it's such an important program that you all do. And those are families and kiddos that really rely upon you. And indeed, you are putting yourself at risk going out now.
Oh yeah, another update. We're making masks, which is cool. Starting next week when everything comes from like Joanne Fabric. So what's the name of the, there's a senior citizen home in Ward 7. There's 2 of them. So we're making 300 masks, like the little mask for them, which is like cool. So in between doing that, we're doing the art team. It's like making like a little face mask, the face protectors. Brilliant. Which is cool too.
That is super cool. And also, as we're seeing in the news, that we're gonna, applaud indeed. We're now seeing that they're most likely going to be officially recommending that we all wear face masks. No surprise. Yeah. So it's more important than ever, not just for first responders, but for all of us. And these are resources that are impossible to come by right now. And it has been really interesting in the news to see how all different industries are pivoting to support. Fashion industry is pivoting, making masks. I think art community pivoting to make masks. Wow, that could be an amazing, beautiful thing too. So that's a great story in itself, to feature those two volunteers that are working with you to make those masks. There's a starting nonprofit in your neighborhood. Oh, Karen, that's great. That is terrific. But thanks, Danelle, for sharing all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Uncle Devin, get them on the air. Karen.
That'd be cool, thanks, yeah.
I'm thinking about you a lot, Karen, because I know you're right on the border of DC, Maryland, and don't know a lot of the resources that are available for Maryland artists at the moment, but we need to look into that too, since I know so many of us are in the DMV, but supporting DC. So do you have any news you can share on that end?
I know Prince George's Arts Council put out an email yesterday about some grants, but I've had so much going on in the last 24 hours that I haven't read it yet. So I'll look at it and
Yeah.
and send it to you to put out.
Sure.
Yeah, I can see DC from my windows.
Yeah.
Being in Mount Rainier, so it's I miss DC and living in DC every single day. Don't tell anybody in Maryland I said that, but
It's okay.
I've never gotten over leaving Adams Morgan.
Yeah.
My heart and my stomach. So
Yeah.
what else? Little update, Mary Lambert and I are in touch, and she's asked me to develop a bookmaking video for middle schoolers.
Excellent.
And that's due by Friday, so I'm scrambling for that. I'm going to need a little bit of help with that, but I think it's going to be very easy book binding wise, but the video, I'm hoping I can just do it on my phone and make it simple and get it to them. I'm not sure how Fox News is going to be transmitting their classes. Does anyone know how they're doing that?
No.
I never thought, as being a staunch Democrat, I would be associated with Fox News, but
I know. Fox does have some good programming, not news, but the regular Fox station. And Jeff Gaiax used to be the morning program director. I need to follow up and check in with him. He's someone I know through his husband is a friend of mine, so I have a personal connection to him. But their morning programming actually is not horrible. I can't say I watch them. I don't, but I have on occasion just because I know Jeff. So it's not the same as Fox Business News or Fox News.
okay, that feels good to hear.
Yeah, and they actually have really good community programming. And keep in mind, Fox is the land of The Simpsons, a lot of creative net programming. They had the Elton John concert every month, just this weekend. So Fox itself is not as scary sounding as it could be if it was Fox News, for sure. Yeah. So
Fox therapy, yeah.
Yeah. That said, I'm actually doing a radio interview today with a station that did flip it. It's 104.7 KISS FM. No longer. They flipped their format. It skews a little more conservative now. And at first I bristled, but I thought it's part of iHeartRadio and that's okay.
Oh, yeah, they're good.
Yeah, so it's all good. So I think you'll get a good reach. And also, as more people know to go and tune into Fox, not Fox News, but DC Fox, it's not the charged Fox News Fox.
Okay, what channel is that? Is it Antenna TV, guys?
Yeah, I forget. What is it, Sylvia? You know? You put your hands up. Oh, you don't have your.
No, it's because I can see Karen now. I couldn't see it before.
Oh, yeah, hi. Yeah.
It's because I was making my second breakfast. I'm not sleeping, so my first breakfast was a long time ago.
Oh my God, don't get me started on meals. That's the whole other. Oh God, I've eaten so much. It's insane. Just constantly. I walk by the kitchen, gotta eat something.
So such nerves.
I know. It's unbelievable.
And then I on the other note, I got the letter from Jeanette yesterday, and that was very difficult.
I know.
So I've written back to her, and I'm just glad that it's just furloughing and not permanent layoffs. I mean,
That's right.
Within 3 hours, a third of my yearly income disappeared 2 weeks ago. So
I know, that's hard.
And teachers are calling me, and I'm calling them, and we miss each other. I miss my kids, and it's a really emotional time. Sorry, guys, I hit a wall today.
It's okay, Karen. We're here for each other.
She's not tech savvy, and we had an hour-long discussion Sunday on ways that she can get some help, and her team at her school is helping her, but they have to do it over the phone or through Zoom. And so she's learned Zoom, she learned Instagram. She was so proud.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm learning from teachers, I think I have my outdoor voice on, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm not teaching, I'm talking.
You're good.
What I've learned from talking to teachers and texting with them is that there are teachers that are not tech savvy, and they are having a hard time with this learning curve. So in order to disseminate all of this information, they have to be proficient in their platforms. And so I thought, this is a way that I'm not top on tech savvy, but I can help them or suggest what they can get, a simple iPad or some sort of computer that has a camera. Some of them are working with computers that don't have cameras. So they're getting frustrated because the parents can't see them. And then they're talking about, which I had thought about, when they're doing Zoom chats with families, there's a privacy issue because we have kids that are not legal, families that aren't legal, and that can't be exposed through this. Right. So I think there's so many issues. The other thing that I've learned, because I've been working with my colleague at the American Indian Museum, she's out in Fairfax, they already had homework and online platforms that were ready to go. They've been doing this for a long time. And so their transition was much more smooth than ours is right now. So I thought that was really interesting. And they're using all of that. So that's just a bit of a wrap up. And then Inner City, Inner Child, we've heard from Evan and Ingrid yesterday, and we're pivoting and working with teachers that we've worked with. Sylvia, is it in the last year, do you think, or in this past semester? Unmute, sweetie.
No, say it again, Carrie.
Do you think the Inner City, Inner Child work is from this year or?
Last year, I think I would say, more last year.
Okay.
The end of last year. Anyway,
we're doing some coaching sessions and videos for that. That's just in development. So I'm definitely not announcing that, but it's starting to come together. So thank you, guys.
Thanks, Karen, for sharing. And Sylvia, you really nailed it in saying this is indeed a time when our absence will be noticed and there is consequence to that. We know that, and it's just so hard to take that in, also combined with knowing that many of us are losing our income as well, concurrent to that. So it's a really difficult time. That's why this is part therapy, right? This group, like you were saying, being able to see us, knowing we're here every day at 11, it means a lot for us too, to be able to share with you all. But I mean, Devin, I think you have a program right here to talk about resources, and you mentioned we should have a professional development course for teachers on becoming proficient online. Yeah, let's look for some experts and help us. Like Tracey, explain what we ideally want to see these platforms doing moving forward, and some of the curricular connection events we're hoping to do too, and other PD type work we can do online now.
Sure. So Trey and I are going to work together a lot with the Connecting to Curriculum workshops. We usually have them every spring anyway. So as members are starting to give us their programming for the upcoming year, they know what each DCPS content area staff are prioritizing over the next year. But given the current situation, we're hoping that some of these workshops can be more geared towards becoming proficient in distance learning. I'll let Trey talk a little bit more about what he's thinking of working on with our programming committee. But Karen, I just want to and all of you, I just want to give you the biggest virtual hug right now. We're not allowed to hug in person anyway, even if we can see each other. But my family is feeling it a little bit too with my husband is a teaching artist. My sister, who's not in the arts, but she just was notified she was furloughed. She's in retail. It's becoming very real, and that I hit a wall recently too. But anyway, these platforms, if there are specific, we're always here for you to talk, and I like that this is open and anyone can call in and talk. But if you want to lead a session for teaching artists within this time frame, just let me know. Like Lissa and I are happy to pass the mic over to you guys to use this format for whatever you need it for. And then for these chats, Mondays we'll always hear from David Markey and Mary Lambert. David Markey at the DC Commission and Mary at DCPS Arts. On Tuesdays it'll be more open, and we'll try to treat it more like office hours, but if you guys know of anyone who wants to talk on Tuesdays, please refer them to us. I've also contacted Patricia Woolsey from Teaching Artists of Mid-Atlantic. She recently joined as a member, so hopefully she can join us for one of these Wednesday calls. They are putting out a lot of great resources too. On Thursdays, we'll talk about developing distance learning resources or future programming, especially for out-of-school time members. And then Friday, every conversation we talk about equity. So Friday will be more focused on equity. And if any of you would like to host, please let me know. I will go ahead and, I mean, you guys are the most active, and I did this yesterday too, but I'll go ahead and post a form in here. If you want to sign up to lead, you could either email me and Lissa or fill out the form to make sure I don't lose you in my email inbox. But Trey, if you want to, we had a kind of a brainstorming session with Trey, Clarissa, Lissa, and I yesterday, and he spoke with the co-chairs of our programming committee about distance learning. So if you want to talk about that part a little bit, and I'll go ahead and put that form link in here.
Yeah, just briefly. So what we were talking about is in the fall, when we do hope to, be able to start our field trips. As most of you know, the way that our program works at the Collaborative is that we have a lottery system in the fall and the winter as well as the spring. One thing that we were talking about is that many of our smaller organizations, teaching artists, may not be able to have their programming submitted to us by the summer in order to submit for the fall. And so thinking of how we can best adjust for that and be able to be flexible and maybe offer multiple dates for programs to be submitted for us for our review. Since we do at the Collaborative, we like to review all of our programs before we submit them to our lottery for teachers to sign up for, so that we can continue to achieve that high performing program that we love to advertise to our teachers, and it's important to us as well. But one of the things that we're working on is an effective partnership guide. This is something that the programming committee has been looking over for the past few months, of just how do we make sure that teaching artists, organizations, as well as teachers know what an effective partnership looks like between those things. What are things that teachers know that our members may not know? What are things that our members know that our teachers may not know, so that these field trips can be more successful for everyone, and so that the students can have the most optimal experience. So one of the things that we're thinking of adding to that is that in the fall, once these things open, schools may be back in session in the schoolhouse, but they may not be leaving to go on field trips. And so we're expecting to see a lot more virtual field trips happening. And so whether that is a Zoom call between a teaching artist or a museum into the classroom, or some type of virtual tour that happens. And so we're looking into how can we, create an effective virtual field trip guide as well, so that we know what that looks like. Like, what are the things that people are expected to do on a virtual field trip, and how can we make sure that that's clear and for everyone to use and to benefit. Does that answer the question you're asking for, Tracey? Okay, cool.
Yeah, perfect. And we're still brainstorming internally, but I think we know that teaching artists and small organization, well, actually it's affecting everyone, but we know that you will need the most help in starting back up, and whatever we can prioritize towards teaching artist doing some of these virtual lessons. We hope to do that, especially in the fall when everything is sort of out of our control right now. And just in our planning, we're looking at things that we can control, kind of moving forward. So we might have some big adaptations that we're making for the fall trips. So that's all that, or our fall programming. That's all that I wanted to add. That's great, Sherry. Thank you.
There are a lot of different elements to this conversation, and that one that we were talking about just yesterday were the bus vendors, and that many of our bus vendors are small businesses as well, and that, you know, during this time, you know, from March 13th when we, you know, ended all of our trips until they start again, they're not getting any of those field trips. And the spring is a particularly busy time for our bus vendors because you have a lot of out of town people coming in for cherry blossom and for other field trips and graduations and things like that. So they're getting a really hard hit. And so one thing that we're anticipating is either some of our bus vendors may not make it through this event, or when they come back, they're going to have to significantly increase their prices for a charter rental. And with an increase in the charter rental, that also means that for many of our grantees and for our organizations that reimburse us for transportation, they're going to have to reimburse us for less transportation because the amount of money that it costs to take 40 kids to a field trip may double or increase just you know, a significant amount. And so we might see less students going on field trips in general, just because of the byproduct of the cost being more. And they may have the grant money, but that grant money may now be more limited because of how that cost has increased. And so that's something that we are, you know, trying to figure out right now, but it's hard to see what that's going to be. And then in the fall as well, many trips that were in the spring are being rescheduled to the fall. And so now the fall is going to be a busier time. And so many of the bus companies may be more strapped for buses. So, well, it's just one of those things that we have to see. It's one of those byproducts of the situation that is just kind of flexible.
Yeah, indeed. And all the more important, we know that this will happen. Sadly, you know, everyone is impacted by this, and the majority of us that do the direct service are small businesses. You know, just like the bus vendors, for sure. That's why the future, really, all roads are leading to a hybrid experiential learning, both direct, on-site, or in the classroom. Right now it's in-home. In the classroom will now take on more meanings too. It may not be you going into the school physically, but you going into the classroom virtually. So that's what our future is going to look like, and we need to figure out more resources. But we'll figure out a way to get some ideas around what's coming up came up in the chat. Maybe looking for some that are more have more expertise in sharing how to create virtual programming, the platforms. Working with some of you, we could look to make that happen for next week during this time slot. But I know before, I know Tom, you wanted to share, and also Terry, if you wanted to share something too. But Tom, I wanted to make sure that you were able to share out what's going on with you.
Yeah, I noticed a grant from the Mayor Bowser's office, and I was working on that, and I joined the discussion a few minutes late. This grant I'm working on is for organization in DC, which is me, but I live in Maryland. So what is the micro grant that the deadline was today? I thought I had 30 days to finish my grant application.
The grant that, I'm not sure which grant you're working on, because as a nonprofit organization, if more than 50% of your work is in service to DC organizations and you're DC based as an organization, you are eligible for this. It comes through the mayor's, DEMPED is the acronym, the mayor's office. It was a grant that was due on Monday, and there were two categories: small business which also includes teaching artists, individual artists, and then nonprofit organizations, community-based arts organizations. And those grants can be up to, not at, but up to $25,000 each. That was due on Monday, but they extended the deadline to Wednesday. I'm not sure what grant you're working on.
It was for a nonprofit organization, and it was through the mayor's office, but I found out about it a week ago and started working on it.
Oh, okay, so that was the one. I'm thinking it may be the same one. Take a look at the link that we've posted here. Okay. It is due today though, so make sure you get that information in today. But if you want, we can have an offline conversation and make sure, I'm curious, I just wanna make sure you're syncing up with what we know so far. And if indeed it is that grant, it is due today. So you wanna make sure you get that done today.
Okay.
Yeah. Terry?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
As a member of the DC Collaborative Board, I'm always looking for ways to increase our user group across the city. And I was thinking that maybe, you know, since we have approximately 300 neighborhood advisory neighborhood commissioners that cover all 8 wards, that maybe we could pass the word through them so that they can get the word out to their communities. I think that that's the most equitable way to spread the word about the platform that the DC Collaborative has put together. And Devin, you make sure that you guys tap into that that database as a resource as well, because there's some interesting things in that database that you all might be able to use in your program as well.
Yeah.
We can talk more about that, Lissa, Tracey, and Trey.
Yeah, I think the ANC commissioner outreach is key. We did do some social media for ANC commissioners that have Twitter handles. So we did tweet out to them, but we did not send direct messages unless they were already in our data, in our eBlast list. We have an eBlast mail list that's about 7,000-ish, and I know that there are ANC commissioners in there, but we haven't updated it recently. So we probably need to look at a targeted list. Also, State Board of Education has representatives by Ward 2 as well. Excuse me, not just Ward 2, but all 8 wards. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that, and we can talk about that with the executive committee when we chat too, because that might be some good outreach that our board can also help support, because it would be peer-based, board to board, commissioners to ANC commissioners to board. Also, again, Devin, boy, I'm just curating your whole program now. But I think you should have Terry on. Terry knows everyone. Terry was art teacher of the year. She's, you know, she knows everything about arts education, and also is a board member, can speak representing the collaborative. She should be your co-pilot on a couple shows. Yes, we're giving applause. Everyone, are we giving the thumbs up? We want Terry on the show. Yes.
Well, and I welcome the idea of even an advisory board to help make sure that the program is what it is, because I'm just happen to be blessed to bring it there, but it's not mine, if you know what I mean. This is for the community. So I look forward to it.
Yeah. I think, Terry, if you and Devin can chat, that would be awesome. Yeah, that would be super. Any of us, of course, but we would be more than happy to, all of us, be your advisory board for sure. But Terry certainly has the most depth and reach, you know, on our board. So that would be perfect. I'm volunteering you there, Terry.
I have one more quick thing to say before we wrap up. So the practitioner membership dues for the collaborative will be free coming up. So we really want to foster this community and think, I don't know, you guys are donating your time to advise us and to come to these meetings. You are not a paid member of an organization. yeah, so we hope that you also forward this out to others. We'll be, yeah, we really want more people to participate and share their ideas on this forum, or, you know, with us in general. So yeah, I hope that you will share that with others in your network too. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Tracey. And, you know, we've, from last summer now, I can say August because I was forgetting the dates, but from that Teaching Artists Institute, we learned so many things, and we've been thinking a lot about how we can advance our teaching artist community. And we wanted to make this switch on membership dues specifically for teaching artists, and now is absolutely the right time to do that. It's one small little step. We know it's not a lot, but we really were looking at this next cycle of grants that come up in this spring cycle to focus on our work with teaching artists as well. Now we have to focus and shift, pivot a bit for emergency grants, but quite frankly, a lot of these emergency grants also could be opportunities to talk about our teaching artists. You know, we've been surveying our current members, mostly the institutional members. I know Karen, I think you may have filled out this survey too. We just had, we have a full survey that went out, but then one question that Trey had forwarded, and that was just financial, based on financial impact. And we're going to share that information with the Kate Fritz Foundation and other key funders. And for those of you that were able to join us yesterday with Jeff Poulin, what the findings we're seeing are tracking with what Jeff was seeing internationally on what are some of the immediate needs. And that relates to teaching artists and independent contractors. You know, all of us have concern for this community, selves included, on this Zoom chat. So we know that striking a membership due is nothing compared to what is really needed at the moment, but it is a significant step for us too. We want to make sure that we're showing intentionality. We want to do our best to serve you guys. And we are going to be looking for funding opportunities that can support you as well. So know that, you know, we're taking all of this to heart. We need to make sure that our doors are open so that we can serve our community, but we know that that is a shift in priority that all of us in the arts and education community have to make right now. So to be continued, but just know how much we appreciate you all. And we know that with each day, the struggle gets harder. Reality has already hit us all. But as Sylvia said, and to end on a positive note, so many wonderful, creative, significant things are going to blossom as we get through this crisis and we get through this pandemic. And just know we do appreciate you all so much. And there's so much for us to continue to discuss. So we will be here every weekday, 11 o'clock. We will be here every Wednesday specifically for you. And we want you all to lead these conversations. Let's try and figure out if we can get an expert on. If anyone has ideas, share it with us, share it with Tracey or Trey, but let's try and get someone on with some expertise on building programming with different digital platforms. We did have that Friday with our friends from DCPS talking a bit about Canvas last week, but let's think about what we can, who we could bring on maybe for next Wednesday, if that sounds good to you all. So please share your ideas and contacts, okay? Sound good? Okay. I guess that's it for today. It's hard to hang up. It's so nice to see everyone. Everyone be well. And I hope you have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow at 11. Bye.
Oh,
yes. We'll post the mayor's grant again. We won't hang up yet. So hold on, Danelle, hold on. It was up.
Danelle, I got your email. so now you're, yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm scrolling up, Danelle. Sorry, I don't see it because we were talking so much. Hold on a sec. And Tracey. Oh, here it is. Did you get it?
Yeah.
You got it first. Okay. If you can paste it so it's on the bottom.
Okay.
Okay, super.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.